into the end zone for Bard. That is a huge counterattack on Bard's part. Hello, we are sorry, we are picking up now. A little trouble with our internet connection, but we're picking up at 3-2 for Bard, just having punched in a hold, and that is going to bring the reigning New York State champions one ahead of the reigning Virginia State champions, Yorktown High School.
And we are here in Arlington, Virginia. Conditions today are a little bit overcast. You can see a bit on the stream there. A little bit chilly. I think the highs here today in the low 50s, but certainly a good amount of wind here at today's field.
Certainly, Musa, and I think that the wind's affecting each and every player a bit differently, but the most important thing is that zone looks on defense become a little bit more potent, and on offense it's all about catches and throws. So let's see what team can commit to their fundamentals a little bit better and make sure that they are punching in the scores that matter.
And here we have a shot of Coach Marcello for Yorktown, coaching their lines through some points ahead, gearing up for this next point.
Indeed, and this is the second game we've commentated where we've seen some wonderful pajama pants style out of some of the players, Musa. What is your first thought when you're facing up an opponent wearing pajama pants? Because for me, it's just pure fear.
Johnny, I have to agree. That person is certainly, although prioritizing their comfort on the field, definitely need that extra warmth today on this chilly day.
Certainly, there's nothing that makes me afraid of an opponent like a comfortable and warm opponent. So that is something that we'll have to keep in mind here for the Yorktown O-line as they look to strike against Bard's D-line. Pull should be coming up here soon. Like Musa said, we are at the YULA Invite at the beautiful Washington and Liberty High School here with second round action. I'm Johnny Malks, this is Musa Jha, and we are happy to bring you the action.
And to give you a little bit of background on the Bard team, they're coming down from New York, their school being in the thick of the city, a small urban school. They have no coach so far this season. You may see someone on the line at some points throughout the game with a sweater that says not the coach. Also limited field space in the city, not giving them much time or opportunity to practice, but nonetheless, here in Arlington, Virginia, hoping to win it all.
Indeed, they're thrilled to be here, and they are out ahead of the reigning Virginia State champions Yorktown, who lost about 12 or 13 seniors from their roster. So in a rebuilding year, but also lots of promising young talent coming up, as well as a bona fide youth star, Robert O'Reilly, in the middle, swinging it to a quick huck. Oh, almost caught in the end zone.
Just off the fingers of the Yorktown receiver, not able to pull that one in. Bard's going to have an opportunity to go the other way.
Bard player there, really excited about the camera, but not picking up the disc. Now, that's really the best of both worlds. You don't have the pressure of having the disc in your hands, but you do get to say hi to Mom at home. I love you, Mom, and it's good to have all the moms out there watching.
And Bard coming out here in a vertical stack, working into that skinny inside lane. Their stack a little deep right now and away from the action, but an unfortunate turn is going to give Yorktown the opportunity for a score.
Indeed, Musa, and Yorktown's left here with a pretty short field. Oh, but a nice D by the Bard defender coming in there, reading the throw before it goes up and getting in there and breaking up the play to give this D-line another shot.
And Johnny, we saw something pretty similar a little bit earlier, that play taking place in the end zone, but some of these Yorktown receivers just not aware of players at their back. You see there the Yorktown player waiting a little bit to catch it, but that just gave the Bard defender an opportunity to run through and get that D.
Indeed, Musa, it's important and ultimate, if not to have eyes in the back of your head, to at least have a perception of what's going on behind you as a big shot goes up. That's floating perfectly and is caught. What a break for Bard. That's going to make it 4-2.
And that was looked like a 50-yard backhand huck from Bard, perfectly placed at the back of the end zone, out of way of any trailing Yorktown defenders. Bard 4, Yorktown 2, excuse me.
And in this wind, Musa, that makes that throw even more impressive. You can see it disturbing the players' jerseys, and uh, sort of wreaking havoc on some of the other plays in this game, but the thrower fights through it and makes a great play for the score.
And I'm sure some of our streamers can even hear the excitement from the field right here in the broadcast box. Lot of excitement. Johnny and I were down there between games, and YULA Invite is one of the first big high school tournaments of the year, and there was certainly that excitement down on the field in between games. A lot of players just ready to be back in action and on the pitch here for their teams.
Yes, indeed, Musa. And YULA, of course, is an acronym standing for the Youth Ultimate League of Arlington. We want to say thank you to all the parent volunteers who make this tournament happen year after year. A great way to grow Ultimate in the DMV, all over the Atlantic coast and the country. We also want to say thank you to all the hardworking coaches, or in the case of Bard, perhaps not the coaches, that are coming out here and supporting the players and making sure that they can all live their ultimate dream. Speaking of that ultimate dream, Musa, can you tell us a little bit about the showcase game happening tonight right here at Washington Liberty High School?
Yeah, starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have the content tour here at Washington Liberty High School in Arlington, Virginia. There were 3 tour stops last year in Philadelphia, Seattle, and San Francisco, but we are fortunate enough to be hosting it here in the DMV. The content tour showcases a lot of black talent in the sport of Ultimate, and so we are excited to be hosting that game here at WNL. Hope to have all of you streaming tonight as well.
Yep, that'll be at 7:30, so if you can't come in person, make sure to turn on the stream as Bard throws a nice towering pull right on the sideline. And of course, that Continent Tour game is going to feature my partner here in the booth, Musa Jha, as well as a lot of black Ultimate talent from the DMV and all across the nation. So be sure to tune in or come view in person as Yorktown throws it to the end zone, and that is tracked down after an early jump. Another player came in and helped his teammate out, and there's a little bit of a discussion going on about whether that was out of bounds.
Johnny, and we've been seeing this all morning so far. It looks like it's pretty hard for players to keep track of that sideline there. We've seen a couple of discs being caught in that exact same place, some being deemed inbounds, some being deemed out of bounds.
Yeah, Musa, well, it's really tough when you have a field like this with no lines. It's hard to tell just based on the cones whether plays are in or out, even especially when they're close like that. Perhaps we have a replay coming up here and we can see better ourselves with the views that we have, but as we can see here, a nice throw to the middle.
Yep, and the shot goes up, trailing off to the right there. An early jump missed, and
that looked into me, but
yeah,
I guess it depends on whether or not
again,
he caught it.
The players likely with the best perspective there, being down on the
Certainly.
field and close to the sideline.
Yeah, I think it depends on the timing when the player caught it, because it looks like his foot was inbounds, but he might not have controlled possession. Seems like it's going to go back to the person who threw it. The contested in-out call, and Yorktown knocking on the door here, trying to pull the game back within 1 point and bring it closer.
And the disc is tapped in. An inside break to center the disc. And a cut to the far side, but it is just too low for the Yorktown receiver. Bard now with an opportunity to score.
Yeah, and that's something that number 10 Robert O'Reilly would like to have back, but he's going to have a chance to get it back on D, and it's important to flip the switch mentally, not worry about past mistakes, and live in the moment. Just like in real life, Ultimate's the same way.
Certainly, and that is a tough wave of emotions to go through, especially when you thought you scored and then having to turn around and play defense. But Yorktown quickly gets it back. Number 11 for Yorktown quickly picking up, and a Blady throw to the break side is caught by number 10 with an emphatic kick spike to end that point.
And that is Yorktown's M.O. Quick movement turning into emphatic celebration, keeping that energy up, just like Coach Marcello said before the game when we were down on the sideline talking to him. That's something that Bard's going to have to deal with in terms of the ebb and flow of energy in this game. Our scoreboard is catching up with us, but we are at 4-3 Bard, so Bard is in the lead.
And we have a replay here. Let's see if we can catch that score one more time.
We don't have a replay, but we were able to see the beautiful YULA logo for this year. Nice pop of color here
Yeah.
on your Saturday morning, or I should say afternoon.
Afternoon. We are into the afternoon here in Arlington, Virginia. It is 1 p.m. Second round of YULA Invite.
Yeah, Musa, and this is something that a lot of players get really excited about the YULA Invite because it's the first real high-level high school ultimate tournament that's held outside in the spring season, and so teams are always itching for YULA, doing their track workouts, getting their practices in, making sure that they are ready for this first round action. I remember when I was playing in high school, it would always be so exciting to have players from around the East Coast and sometimes the country coming in to play, even in these sometimes tough conditions. It's a great way to shake the rust off from the winter and get excited about the season ahead.
And Johnny, you are certainly right. As much as we've seen in the stream so far this morning, regional competition between Bard and Yorktown and WNL and East Chapel Hill this morning, there have been teams that have come as far across the country as Seattle. And so in 2019, there was a Seattle team here at YULA Invite. And we see a turn there from Bard, giving Yorktown an opportunity to even up the score here. And a quick hup goes up from number 11. We've seen him do that a lot on these turns.
Certainly, and that's asking a lot of his receiver, but that's Yorktown's game, and looks like they're going to stick to it to try to pull them through. Bard coming right back the other way with a big huck, and that's floating nicely. It's caught. Continued to the end zone to a sliding receiver, and they are pumped, Musa.
And Bard goes the full length of the field in 2 throws. Number 27 picking up for Bard, hucking it just shy of the end zone before that player was able to pass it off to a streaking receiver and score there for Bard.
Certainly, and it is now 5-3 Bard. With a team like Bard, Musa, it seems like they're all just really excited and genuinely happy to be here playing Ultimate with their friends, and I love to see that personally. As someone who's struggled sometimes with motivation or worrying about what's going on in the heads of my teammates or opponents, it's always important to live in the moment and make sure that you're having fun. And I just love seeing Bard out there doing that, and that's probably what's led to a lot of their success in this game.
Yeah, and it looks like we may have a timeout here on behalf of Yorktown, huddling to regroup after that point. They're definitely going to want to discuss maybe their transition to defense on those turns, Johnny.
Certainly, yeah. You hate to see, if you're Yorktown, a player getting pretty much uncontested deep shot the length of the field and then another easy flip to the end zone. They're going to have to react and hopefully make sure to have a little bit of a cap on the back of that vert stack to limit that quick motion out of Bard.
And again, Bard here also regrouping to address their strategy going forward. And Johnny, you know, I must say, they have quite the jerseys, this Bard team. I think there's a Viking on the front with some axes as well, crossed axes, and it looks like the New York City skyline right there on the back of their jerseys.
One could say it's a clashing motif, but one could be wrong, you know. I don't know too much about history. It's possible that Vikings founded New York. What do you think of that notion?
You know, I don't know enough about the history of New York to agree with that, Johnny. But I'll leave it to our streamers to decide for themselves.
Sometimes imagination is the best history you can have, and it seems like Bard is using their imaginative style of play to pull ahead in this game. Their players and their not the coach are really excited about that score, this last score that we saw, as we can see.
And you can see on that replay, great read on behalf of that Bard receiver. It is hard to catch a disc in these windy conditions here this morning. You know, just when you think you might have possession, it could pop up or drop in a weird way and cause you to lose possession and a turn.
Certainly, Musa, you're right. And I think based on the time cap here and the body language of the players, I think we are in half right now. And so we will sign off for a quick halftime break, and we will come back to you from Washington and Liberty High School in Arlington for second half action between Yorktown and Bard. Hello, folks. We are back with second half action of this game from YULA Invite between Yorktown and Bard, reigning state champions respectively from Virginia and New York. I'm Johnny Malks here with my partner in the booth, my partner in crime, Musa Jha. And Musa, after seeing this first half, what are some keys to the game for each team, maybe one for each team that you can think of in terms of how each of them can come out with triumph in this game?
Yeah, Johnny, that's a great question. We've seen a lot of quick action from both teams, both taking the opportunity on turns to huck it deep to a receiver. But for Yorktown, I think going forward, what they're really going to want to focus on is shutting down Bard's downfield cutters. I think at times Bard's downfield cutters have done a great job of getting the disc up the field and into the end zone. If Yorktown can play a little tighter on defense, I think they're going to be in a good position to pressure a lot of Bard's throws. And for Bard, I think they're going to want to be a little bit quicker on their transitions to defense. We've seen a few opportunities by Yorktown where number 11 has picked up the disc and hucked it deep to an open receiver with no trailing defender from Bard. And so if Bard can prevent that and stop the Yorktown offense, particularly on those breakaways, they're going to be in a good position going here into the second half.
Certainly, Musa. Both teams seem to predicate their offense on quick scores coming from a few key players, and I would say if I were the coach of either of these teams, I would want to just key in on which players are the throwers, shut them down, and then stifle the point of attack from where it's coming from, because when you have a team like both Yorktown and Bard that have a few really, really talented throwers, it's important to, if you're trying to slow them down, to stop it from the point of attack as well, in addition to the quick hit offense coming from the downfield space. So
certainly, and some adjustments that we see defenders make to pressure those throws from some of the key handlers on both teams is to have a flat mark where they're able to pressure a backhand huck or a forehand huck. So far, we've seen a lot of defenders maintain their force and allow those hucks to go off. And here we have the opening pull of the second half from Yorktown. That one looking like it just stays in bounds. Great catch from the Bard handler.
Yep, pull fielded nicely. Swinging it back to the center to number 27, who's then putting it over toward the low side sideline.
And Bard here coming out in a vertical stack, looking to reset the disc there. And you see a hat fly off of a player's head there, indicating how windy the conditions here are. The conditions are here in Arlington, Virginia.
Looks like a little bit of an impassioned discussion going on the field between a Yorktown player and a few of the Bard players, maybe an out-of-bounds call, and those have been, we've had a couple of contentious ones in this game, Musa. Thinking about that far side sideline where there's not an actual line. For the most part, players have been doing an okay job of working that out, but quick turn from Yorktown here gives the disc back to Bard.
It looked like a miscommunication between that Yorktown receiver and the thrower, but it's quickly given back to Yorktown.
Number 11 picking it up. Watch out for a quick throw into the end zone here. That's his bread and butter, and not quite in the end zone there, but close. And another quick throw. It's tracked down by the Yorktown receiver, and that is a great catch. Nice bid, and even the Bard player coming over to give congratulations for that catch.
That is certainly a difficult catch to make in these conditions. Low to the ground, being pushed even lower by the wind, but Yorktown being able to come up with it anyway.
Certainly, Musa, and that's the kind of effort that the Yorktown receivers have had to show this season. Coming out of their Virginia State Championship, losing almost half their roster due to seniors matriculating to college, and the Yorktown receivers have had to get used to catching all sorts of stuff coming out of the sky from the few throwers left on their roster who are confident putting those shots into the end zone. And for the most part, they've done an okay job of it, pulling within 1 point of Bard, who has been rolling in this game.
And that is certainly, and here we have a replay of that score. There we see number 10 receiving the disc. A quick low throw and a nice grab there from Yorktown's receiver.
And it looks like all the players are quick to help him up when he might not even want to be helped up. Looked a little painful to go down and grab that one, but that's the kind of effort and passion that we're seeing out here on the field from these players, and it's a joy to watch.
And that is just what Yorktown needed coming out into this second half Scoring their point, gain a lot of that confidence back. You know, they certainly had an uphill battle to climb, being down by 2 coming out of half, but here we are within 1.
Certainly, Musa, and it's the sort of thing where, as we can see here, we're well past midway point in this game, and it is only 5-4. This is how a lot of the games at the YULA Invite go with the windy and cold conditions every year. And so it's important for the Yorktown players and the Bard players to make sure that they are taking every possession very seriously if they're going to try to win this game, because there might only be, for all we know, a few more points scored.
Certainly, especially with these windy conditions, these games tend to be lower scoring. These are games to 13, but we have not yet seen a streamed game go to 13. The last game ending 9-7.
We haven't even seen a stream game reach half with a point cap. It's all been time cap based on the new USAU rules. So here we see Bard taking it in the center of the field, trying to work half field into the end zone and try to extend their lead a bit here as it has shrunk to 1 based on Yorktown's play.
Yeah, and good timing on behalf of these Bard resets, knowing when to come into the backfield, when to go upline, when to engage the front of the stack. Great resets.
Oh, and there's a tight play there. One of the only times you'll really see the rule come into Ultimate where it's a tie goes to the offense. So it's interesting to see both players try to catch that disc rather than swat it away on the defender's part. Quick huck going up, and that's going to work. What a Blady throw from the Bard offensive player there, getting pumped up, and you can really tell he's been working on that, perhaps not on a field like you said with the limited field space in New York, but certainly doing some Blady throws wherever he can get them in, and that's going to lead to nice quick offense.
Yeah, and I think what we're starting to see here in this second half, Johnny, it's looking like a pretty upwind, downwind game. A lot of teams being able to score their offensive opportunities when scoring on this downwind end zone, but having more difficulty working the disc upwind.
Certainly, Musa, and so as we update our scoreboard here, that is going to be 6-4 Bard. And so Bard pulls away by 2. And like you said, if this continues on with the way that it's been going, it's going to be really tough for Yorktown to claw back into this game. They'll have to score 2 points upwind to win. So that's something that we can keep an eye out for as this game moves along.
Certainly, and you can hear that excitement down on the field. A lot of players getting jazzed with YULA Invite being one of the first big tournaments of the high school season. A lot of energy here at the fields this morning.
What's some Gen Z slang that you've picked up over your playing career? I think one of my favorite ones that we've been hearing a lot with the Super Bowl and Joe Shiesty is shiesty, which apparently translates to greedy, and in a sports context it just means you're real cold, you're real good when you got the disc in your hand.
That's a good one. I think I might have to use that later, Johnny.
Yes, indeed, and certainly Bard's been looking shiesty throughout this game with a 2-point lead. No cap.
No cap. You know, I'm certainly a big fan of the, all of this lingo is beyond my time. The classic lit, which is generally
lit.
used to express excitement over something.
Certainly, and that pole was pretty lit out of Bard if it doesn't go out of bounds.
And it looks like it just might stay in here. Yep. And that pole land, that's a great upwind pole, but is quickly thrown away
and
by
a hat
Yorktown.
spike from the Yorktown player. He hates to see that come out of his hands. He'd like to have that one back, especially as Bard was doing a zone set that was enticing him to throw that swing. Perhaps that's exactly what they wanted, Musa.
Yeah, and that is certainly a benefit of zone defense, forcing the offense to make a lot of short throws, but oftentimes the more you throw it, the more at risk you are of dropping it.
That is the truth, and here we see Bard with their quick hit offense.
And a nice around break from number 22 on Bard.
Lots of handler motion, helping them out immensely in this game on the counterattack, and there's a break throw, but it is broken up on the defensive end by the Yorktown defender. Great job reading that, and the Yorktown fans are fired up.
Great run through D from that Yorktown defender. It looks like they had a quicker read to that disc, being able to get a step on that cutter and get the D.
Bard in the same zone. Oh, and a really unfortunate drop from Yorktown there. Bard's had great success enticing that swing and getting Yorktown to make mistakes off the first throw this point, so they might stick with that the rest of this game.
And Bard's going to have an opportunity here to punch it in from the goal line. And it looks like they're taking a second to regroup and organize their offense before bringing the disc into play.
Yes, indeed, Musa, and this is something that Yorktown's going to have to work on if they have a shot at clawing back into this game. Letting Bard get an upwind break here with a short possession outside the end zone is not what they want to do, and that's exactly what happens. The Yorktown player is not pleased with that.
And you saw a lot of the Bard receivers or cutters in the back of the end zone there, staying out of the way and just allowing 3 of their players to really work the disc to that goal.
And it is now 7-4 Bard, pulling away a bit from Yorktown here, and you can see the frustration on the faces of some of the Yorktown players. That's really tough, especially without Coach Tyler Monroe on the sideline with them today. They're going to have to look within themselves to find some energy, and we see a nice pose here by some of the Bard players. Reppin'. There's the replay of the goal.
The Big Apple.
The Yorktown player is visibly upset, makes a little contact on the D, but glad everyone was okay. Here we're getting some nice shots of Bard players convening, having a little bit of a round table, thinking about how they can get a little bit farther ahead in this game and really secure their victory here. Even though we're not quite at the end of the game, the windy conditions making it really tough for any kind of run out of either team. And some of the body language on the Yorktown sidelines, not really what you want to see. Lots of sitting down. Pretty much the opposite of what Bard is doing, all standing up, excited about the game. And you'd wonder what would happen if the tables were turned, Musa. Would the Bard players be sitting down? Something tells me no. They seem to be a pretty positive team and excited to be here, and that could be what's leading to a lot of their success. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly. Bard, certainly proving their title as reigning New York State champs and coming out here fiery in the second half and pulling away from Yorktown.
Certainly, and that's something as a Yorktown team that you need to think about this as a whole tournament-wide kind of narrative for them. You can't focus on this one game necessarily, but you need to make sure that you get your energy up, start scoring a few points, or at least feeling positive about a few points so that you can take the energy into the rest of this tournament. That's one thing about Ultimate that's always surprised me from a psychological perspective, with players getting a little bit down after one game and then sort of tanking their whole tournament performance. So Yorktown's going to need to make sure to right some of their negative energy and try to get back into this, not only this game, but the whole tournament, Musa.
Certainly, and we see Bard coming out again with zone defense. They're certainly going to want to be careful with these double teams. It looks like a few of those marks are pretty close to the Yorktown handler.
Yeah, and Musa, sometimes that's not of any kind of intent to be malicious or cheat or anything like that. It's just, as we know, they haven't had a bunch of coaching and haven't had a bunch of field space to practice their distancing perhaps, but certainly looking a little bit close on the marks there. Hammer over the top, not quite going to connect, and so Bard's going to have another chance to counterattack.
And Yorktown taking this opportunity to play person-to-person defense. We see there a little bit of miscommunication on the switch, but Yorktown able to lock down their people.
Certainly, Moose, I was impressed by number 5's pointing there, using his voice, using his body language to pick up a person, and that's really textbook when you're transitioning out of an offense into guarding a team that was playing zone. It's really important to over-communicate, if you will. Make sure that everyone's on the same page, and now Yorktown's back in their set, but a nice blading throw into the end zone.
And it looks like that receiver is just able to toe it in, but there is going to be some on-field discussion about whether he was in bounds.
It is a little unfortunate, Musa. It looked like he wasn't quite aware of where the sideline was, even kicked over the cone as he was catching it, so a really good throw might turn into an unfortunate turn here for Bard, depending on what this discussion yields.
Yeah, and it seems like there's predominantly discussion from the field, but even so, some people chiming in from the sideline to offer the best perspective on whether that receiver was in bounds.
Certainly, and perhaps we could get a replay of what we just saw, maybe not, but it's important to...
I think if we listen closely, we might be able to hear some of the discussion from these players. So some discussion about whether that player was on the line when they caught the disc. And if that is the case, that would be out of bounds.
And it looks like it's going to be a contested in-out call. Going back to the thrower, and for Bard, that's actually an okay outcome. Disc back in the hands of their most talented thrower, knocking on the door of the end zone here, so they'll try to repeat the outcome. And savvy play, calling a timeout and making sure his team has time to regroup and almost put this game out of reach for Yorktown if they score this.
Yeah, and nonetheless, we cannot deny how impressive that catch was there on the sideline. Being able to read perfectly, when to clap catch and maintain possession despite the windy conditions, but also make sure that their feet were close enough to stay in bounds.
Certainly, Moose, and it's the sort of thing that, like you said, might have been perfect anywhere else on the field, but right on the sideline there yielded a bit of discussion that took the goal away. So, and those are always tough calls to do, especially if you're very sure of your opinion and it's in your team's favor. It's always important to not let that get your game down and make sure that you're still playing your game regardless of what the outcome is, even if it's a contested call for both teams, because the game goes on, and like we talked about earlier, it's important to live in the present in Ultimate so that you can be as present for your teammates and your own style of play as possible.
Yeah, certainly. And Johnny, going back to that energy you were talking about on the Bard team, here we see them in a bit of a huddle and a cheer. Great sideline energy to keep their teammates hyped and ready to punch in a score.
Certainly, and through that shot, we could see the stark contrast between the Bard sideline and the Yorktown sideline, hoping that the Yorktown players can get up for each other a little bit here and try to uplift one another, empower one another to play their best, because that's how you win Ultimate games, especially in more of a USAU club setting. It is important to have the sideline be as engaged as the players are, because usually there isn't a huge fan base. So it's important to, whether you're a fan or on the team and not playing currently, to get excited, make sure the players on the field feel that palpable energy, because it does really help your legs, helps your throws, helps everything.
Certainly, and there's a lot of fun to come out of those circles there at halftime where the sideline huddles. I think some of my favorites are playing, I believe the game is called Rochambeau, where you go around and compete.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Similar to rock, paper, scissors, but not quite the same.
Interesting.
Do you have a favorite?
There's some nuance there.
Circle activity, Johnny, there during a timeout?
It's interesting. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes I just can't do the circles and the timeouts. You gotta focus up, but I'm always down for a little up down, looking up, looking down.
That's a good one.
Bard taps it in, swings to the center. An interesting scenario there where the player who threw it, the disc popped up, they're not allowed to catch it again until another player taps it, so that's why it looked like he wasn't quite going for it. Yorktown's disc.
Yeah, and it certainly seems like the wind has potentially picked up a little bit. I don't know if it's a gust or just more wind in general here this afternoon in Arlington, Virginia.
Yorktown struggling to find a reset here, looking downfield and throwing it up.
And it might just get caught by a Yorktown receiver, but it falls just ahead of them in their attempt to catch it. Bard's going to have to work it the full length of the field if they want to punch in a score.
Indeed, Musa. That could have been a big momentum shift for Yorktown there. Could have made it 5-7 scoring upwind, but instead it's going to be Bard's disc. And look out of the back of the stack here, number 55, who has loved his deep shots, now coming under. Getting a nice big chunk under and looking to reset now.
Yep, and Bard running a vertical stack. It looks like we may have some rain coming down now here at the fields.
And this deep shot's going up every time, 27-55. That has been the connection, and it continues to be. Bard 8-4 up on Yorktown here as the rain begins to fall. Looking like a little bit of an angsty music video here for Yorktown, Musa.
Yeah, it's looking tough for Yorktown. They're going to have to, come back and come back quick. There can't be more than 20 minutes, I think, left in this match. And you'll see here we have rain falling at the fields. Not a sprinkle. Seems like it's coming down pretty hard and pretty quickly. That is certainly going to be an added element to this game where the disc is going to become a little bit harder to catch. Players are going to have to focus even more on their throws and catches, and all around may make them a little bit chillier. I'm sure that person wearing pajama pants is lucky to be warm here.
Again, can't say this enough. nothing scarier than an opponent who is cozy, warm, and ready to play. And that's exactly what the pajama pants wearing players are. So shout out to pajama pants wearing players. Continue to be you. And Bard is certainly being them right now. Excited to be here, as we've talked about throughout the game, bringing that palpable energy. Musa, just makes me want to go out on the field there and celebrate with them.
It certainly does. It certainly does, Johnny.
Interesting here to see how each team will react to the rainier conditions. Wondering if they'll change their strategies at all. Both have been predominantly deep shot based. We have seen some good motion out of each team so far in the handler space, but really looking to connect to their downfield cutters through those deep shots. Wonder if that's going to change at all as the conditions shift alongside them.
Certainly, and they're probably going to have to be a little more cognizant of what deep shots they look to take. We've seen both teams taking opportunities to huck it deep, even the full length of the field here. But that disc, when coming out of your hands with a slippery disc, it's a little bit harder to maintain control of, and you can't get it off quite like you like.
Certainly not, Musa. And as we see here, Yorktown's going to be picking it up on the sideline. A nice swing to get out there. Oh, but an unfortunate drop in the windy conditions. The added slickness on the disc with the rain is not going to help with that either. Yorktown players shouldn't feel too bad about that. Get back on defense.
And again, we see Bard picking up and a lot of their stack downfield, but it looks like their handlers having them come a little bit shallower and closer to the disc.
If you're Bard here, it'll be important to continue to stick to your guns. And they're doing just that with a nice up line throw. Fakes the scuba and then a nice around throw. Bard is rolling here, Musa, 9-4.
They certainly are, and it looks like Yorktown just lost track of that receiver in the end zone who was able to come onto the fore side unmarked and patiently wait for the handler to throw them the disc.
Certainly, Musa, unfortunate break for Yorktown there, but it does go along with sort of the more quiet sideline, the more quiet on-field presence. You need to be having your voice loud and your head up in that scenario to make sure you transition into defense.
And for streamers out there, the score right now is 9 Bard and 4 for Yorktown. So Yorktown having a ways to come back, but you know, Johnny, I've seen bigger comebacks.
Certainly, Musa. As we were talking about before, myself being an alumnus of Yorktown, we had similar issues in my day, you know, a few players who kind of encouraged the energy of the entire team, and when we got down as a team, it was important for the few players that folks were looking up to kind of lead that energy. So I'm looking to some of the leaders on Yorktown, some of the seniors, to make sure that they can get back into this game, because as we talked about before, it's not only this game that they're worrying about right now, it's their energy for the rest of the tournament. And especially with the rain coming down, it's even more important to manufacture that energy between your teammates and yourself to make sure that people can still have a good time and have fun and improve, because that's the only way you are going to improve in a situation like this.
Certainly, certainly. And Johnny, you know, I've had a pressing question this whole match. What is the history of the pineapple for Yorktown?
Interesting history of the pineapple, yes. So the first year that I played was the first year that Yorktown, as the poll goes up from Bard here, the first year that I played on Yorktown was the first year I started Ultimate, the first year that Yorktown and HB, the other program in Arlington besides WNL, Wakefield, and Yorktown, split as a team. So it used to be called YHB, and then they split up. Yorktown and HB were separate. WNL started their team. Wakefield started a bit later. But that first year, I wasn't on varsity, but the varsity team was at a tournament called Tidewater Tune-Up, and they went to a thrift store. Oh, unfortunately, it looks like we have an injured player out on the field.
Players taking a knee out of respect for the player that is injured on the field. Looks like they're responding well to their coach here, but staying on the ground.
Hope that that's all right. You hate to see injuries at an Ultimate tournament.
Player backing up and standing. We love to see that. Doesn't look like it's any long-term injury here.
As they discuss about the play that happened, the Yorktown team that was at Tidewater Tune-Up went to a thrift store. They lost all their games the first day, so they were going to a thrift store to kind of lick their wounds, try to get back into it, get a little bit of fun going, and they found a pineapple flag. Bought the flag the next day, came back, won all their games. And so that is the symbol of the pineapple being good luck for the Yorktown team, and it's persisted into their logo today, taken many different forms, but certainly integrating that pineapple into the logo has been a symbol of good luck and resilience for the Yorktown team, but haven't had a lot to rally around in this game, so hopefully they can show that resilience moving forward into this rainy game.
Certainly, and Johnny, that is one of the better origin stories I have heard of for a team symbol. And again, Bard with the disc, with an opportunity to break Yorktown. And it looks like Yorktown defender may have just gotten a foot on that, and 11 from Yorktown quickly picks it up and hucks it, but just out of reach of the intended target. And we've seen that all throughout this game. Yorktown taking advantage of those breakaway opportunities to counterattack and quickly score to punch it in.
Certainly, Moose, and it's important to remember that Yorktown lost about half their team matriculating to college after their state championship, so they are in a little bit of a rebuilding year, but you'd like to see them getting a few more of their players involved, especially on the deep shots. I feel like they could look for maybe one or two more underlooks before shooting the end zone like that. Especially in these conditions, it would be tough to make that catch, but they're sticking to their guns, and it worked up for them a little bit at the beginning of the game, but since then it's been all Bard, and now Bard's picking up on their own end zone line, looking to go the full 70.
Yeah, certainly. And Johnny, it is these rebuilding years are important and just out of reach of the Bard receiver. But as I was saying, these rebuilding years are important. You know, a lot of players who may not have seen as much field action in years prior really get to find their role on the team and also decide what kind of role they see fits them best.
As the throw goes up from Yorktown, that one is canceled by the Bard defender. Sets a pivot foot in the end zone, but they're going to let him walk it up to the front. I agree with you, Musa, and it's really exciting in a youth setting, especially as some of these players are just coming into their own, seeing what they can do, and kind of sometimes, interestingly enough, in a high school setting, surprising themselves with both their joy for the game and the way that they can play it, as we see a little bit of an unfortunate drop there from the Bard player.
Yeah, just through the hands of number 2 on Bard. It looks like there is going to be... Oh, it looked like there was a stoppage of play, but play continues, and Yorktown receiver, as fancy as he was trying to get with his feet, just cannot keep it inbounds.
And that is tough. That is the third huck they've tried to throw to Robert O'Reilly, their number 10, who has been carrying this Yorktown team a bit through this tournament, but has also been a little bit of a magnet for some of those shots that are tiring him out and not working a bunch. So it's important for the Yorktown team to maybe look for a few other options to not tire out number 10.
And again, Bard having to go the full length of the field to punch in a score and having some trouble resetting the disc, and it is a turn on the goal line. Can Yorktown punch it in?
Picks it up immediately there.
And stall count must be getting high here, but number 10 finds a target in the end zone, and Yorktown is able to score.
Yep, finally breaking the point drought there for Yorktown. It is now 9-5 Bard. And I think after that horn, that could mean that that is the game. We will see based on the player's body language, but it's looking like this will go in the books as a win for Bard. 9-5 is your final score here from the YULA Invite at W&L High School in Arlington, Virginia.
And final score ending at 9-5. And so both teams with more games to play today. This is just round 2 of the YULA Invite.
Yes, and we'll be bringing you streams all day from all 4 or 5 rounds of action. Musa and I will be signing off, passing over broadcast duties to Ted Seither and Adam Norbaum, but it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the first 2 rounds of action here from the YULA Invite. One last time, wanted to shout out all the players, parents, and coaches who came together to make this event an important and successful event over the past few years and this year too. And so we wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everyone in the booth as well. Musa here alongside me. And we are pumped to bring you this action. It's been so exciting. Musa, any words to sign off?
Yeah, no, it's just been a great, you know, A lot of excitement down on the field, and you can definitely feel that even radiating up here to the broadcast box. A lot of the time, players on the field getting real excited. But we are excited here to continue to bring you content throughout the day. We have the next round here starting. Let's double check and see what time that game is at. Next game is going to be here, broadcast at 2:05 Eastern Daylight Time. So we hope you sign back on to watch more of the YULA Invite.
And we will catch you back then. Until next time, see ya.